Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and we're back with another review and continuing our look at the early Amazon Christmas presents of Transformers Legacy United. This is Core Class Bouldercrash, and much like Magnius, I think I got it. This is from the Infernac universe and is thus an armorizer. Yes, I figured out what the name is. It's not like it's somewhat clearly written on the packaging, and I do find that interesting because if we look back a little, War for Cybertron, the weaponizers, they became weapons. That kind of tied in, war, weapons. Kingdom, you had the fossilizers, fossils, beasts, prehistoric times. That kind of tied in. So I'm curious as how the armorizers are going to tie into the overall theme of United. Um, but much like Magnius, this is a rock-based transformer. Now, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, the core class armorizers become weapons for larger figures. Obviously, they're too small to break down. Um, and much like Magnius, the predominant colors here are red, brown, reddish brown, like a clay color. It's like a clay stone. It is a three-wheeled uh, motorcycle, sort of like an ATV of sorts. In fact, actually, it looks a lot like an ATV. Rolls very nicely. Obviously, of course, it depends on the surface you're on. The wheels are not pinned in, but I like it. You do see over that clay brown a lot of brighter red detailing, so that is nice. Um, Now, before we get into the transformation, as I mentioned, this becomes a weapon. So what you want to do here is grab this back section, which is the blade, and that will snap into place. And there's a peg right here that runs up this center shaft, which is like the crux of how this whole figure holds together. And let's just go ahead and we'll start off. We'll bring in Magnius, uh, Magnius. Um, and just one thing I wanted to quickly point out, I'm sure you guys notice, Magnius is holding the shield a bit differently, and that's something I kind of forgot to show on the back of the figure, um, is that these little extra bits, which we saw were removable, you can actually take them off. That reveals another 5 millimeter hole, and they can tab into the back of the leg. Number one, that adds a little more detail to the back of the leg. Number two, that can also close in that gap, but it does free up that port, which then allows you to store the shield if you want on the arm, Gundam style. But just a little something I forgot to show. So let's go ahead and move his little axe crossbow thingamabob here to this hand. I know it adds a little bit more to the display options, the posability, stuff like that. Now, here's the funny thing about Boulder Crash. The back of the box shows the sword being held this way. The instructions show it being held this way. We'll try each way. I think it just gives you different options there. So there you go. Obviously, it's a little big for a deluxe figure, I think. Also, Boulder Crash, the limbs are just a little loose, so depending on the pose, it will, fall down. Let's switch the grip now, as they would say. I prefer it. I think this is more like the cutting edge, so I prefer it that way. But then this way, you actually end up with more of the, I would say, the weight of the figure towards the joint. And as you can see, depending on how I pose the figure, it's a little hard, but does work, at least in my opinion. Um, Moving Magnius out of the way, let's see how it looks with a Voyager figure. And here's Thundertron. Um, so we can just go ahead and obviously Thundertron being a little bit bigger, has a little more what I would consider staple joints. Again, you can see how it's holding it a little bit easier, switching the grip. Yeah. I would say that Voyager, that Boulder Crash as a, let me just adjust this. Boulder Crash in its weapon mode works uh, better for Voyager figures and up. Um, but I mean, I would say the biggest you would go would be leader. Once we get into like the commander scale or something like that, uh, you do run the risk of then Boulder Clash being a little undersized to be a believable sword. So just some thoughts there, but yeah, I dig it. I think it looks really cool, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the weaponizers going forward. So now that we've seen this, let's pause, and we'll actually get into Boulder Crash's road. Okay, so I've gone ahead and returned Boulder Crash to its rock ATV form. Just flip that blade back. And the first step of the transformation is you want to just pop off the front of the bike, which would be, I guess, the windscreen if it was a real bike and stuff like that. Unfortunately, you cannot do the transformation with this attached. You'll see why in a moment. The next thing you want to do is come in here, and as I mentioned, that center column where everything is the crux of this figure, the arms tab into, there's slots in the forearm that tab into that center column. So just pop those up, bring them out and around, just like so. And then next, what you want to do is unpeg the legs from that center column. They have the tabs this time, and the column has the slots. Straighten them out. And this is a part of the transformation that gets a little finicky. First thing you have to like rotate um, the figure around at the waist, and sure enough, it wasn't that hard. Um, but usually there's like a little bit of a clearance issue because this bar is fixed and it can't move. Um, so there's that. And now what you want to do is grab this upper section and you're going to rotate it around. Oh, you know what? There's a reason why you should not have pegged the arms in, just have the clearance to rotate. It's just makes enough of a difference to, that it would hit the side there that you want to make sure the arms are not pegged in yet when you rotate that top part down. So now you're going to rotate this chest piece down and flip back this back section, and it'll snap into place just like so. Finally, for the weapon mode, you can actually keep this in robot mode. You can tap this back in if you so desire. I can just line it up. Oh, it's got to go. Oops, got to go this way, and then bring that down like so. Although it does make the figure a little more back heavy and does raise the profile over the head. But as you saw, you do want to flip it out, the blade out for weapon mode. There's a small peg right there that will fit in the hand. And there you go. There's Boulder Crash in its robot mode. Very nice. Ball joints at the hips, ball joints at the shoulder, ball joint at the elbow, ball joint at the knee. And again, because of the transformation, not only do you have that waist swivel, you still have a little bit of that upper chest swivel, and you have a ball joint at the head. Very like neutral, blank looking head. And again, as I mentioned with Magnius, there really isn't a any type of markings that show that whether or not this character is Autobot or Decepticon, which I kind of like that since they are like armor and weapon figures. They're kind of more of a neutral thing. But yeah, um, I really dig it. I think this is a one of the better core classes that I've handled in a while. You can get some fun posing out of it thanks to the very wide feet and legs and what have you, and you know, some interesting sword posing and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess that's really all I to say about Boulder Crash. Let's pause, and we'll come in with my final thoughts. Like I said, Boulder Crash is a fun little figure. I am interested to see the other armorizer, core class armorizers. I hope this isn't just going to be a case like the Battle Masters, where you have one, maybe two molds that just get reused over and over, and it's just to a point where it's hard to tell one from the other. Um, Other than that, uh, yeah, it's a fun figure. Now, one thing I should mention for those of you who were planning on trying to like look for a few of these as like a really early Christmas, like a special Christmas surprise, let me just tell you, I do not think in the United States these figures are showing up at retail. I've heard that Wave One of United showed up at Canadian retail, but in terms of US brick and mortar, I haven't. And really, the only place to get them is Amazon. And I think right now, unfortunately, the figures are, they're not saying they're pre-orders, they're saying they're in stock, but they're not going to ship till after Christmas. So it's like some of them. So it's like you'll get charged, but you won't get them until after Christmas. So unfortunately, there's that. I would say though, like within a month, maybe two, these should be on shelves at your local retailers and available more at more online retailers. Um, I think Amazon just got very lucky, so there's that. But that's about it for the review. If you like this review, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. While I will always appreciate the views, the likes, comments, and subscriptions help to communicate to YouTube through their algorithms that my channel should be exalted and held upon high. If you want to make the ultimate sign of support, I do have a Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. Um, all I ask for is $1 a month or $12 a year. You guys know the spiel, but I also know that it is the holiday season, and some of you are, have presents to buy and stuff like that. So you take care of your family. You don't have to worry about little old me. But if you do find yourself with a little extra cash, my Patreon's a great way to put it because it does help keep the channel running ever so smoothly. But I also make a point of saying that Patreon is a cherry on top of a generous Sunday. And that generous Sunday has been your guys' support, where even before Christmas, you gave me the present of reaching over 5,000 subscribers now and making animated Optimus Prime from United my most watched video of the year, which I think it's kind of funny. But, we'll talk about that a little bit more in another video. Uh, that's about it. Once again, this is your old pal Chuck for Boulder Crash. We will see you next time.